morning, everyone, and welcome to the 6th annual KidLibCamp at Darien Library. Can't believe it's been 6 years. My name is Claire Moore, and I am the head of Children's Services at the library. And before we begin today, I just want to say a brief thank you to the friends of the library who make this event possible year in and year out. So a big thank you to our friends. And I also wanted to just thank the entire Children's Library for just helping with preparations for today. I wanted to introduce all of you to them. So over to my left, I have Elizabeth Maricola. And in the back, we have Amy Laughlin, Lisa Nolan, and Krishna Grady. So if you have any questions today, please feel free to ask us, ask any of the Darien Library staff, and we would be happy to assist. So I recognize a lot of familiar faces today, so thank you to all of you who come each year to KidLib. But for those of you who are first-time attendees, what makes an unconference unique is that you get to set the tone for the day. And that's by choosing the topics of discussion, which we have here, and for also sharing your expertise during the sessions. But before we get to the planning portion of this morning, I'd like to introduce our very special guest. So this past September in the Children's Library, we were fortunate enough to open our first mini makerspace called the Tea Room. And when we were doing research, it was difficult to search both makerspaces and libraries without coming across the name Lauren Britton. And when one of my colleagues told me, or I told them that I wanted to host a speaker on this topic, she said that hands down, we had to invite Lauren Britton to Darien Library. So as a leader in the makerspace movement, Britton has worked with libraries across the globe to build these transformative spaces. She is currently a doctoral student at Syracuse University in Information Science and Technology, and Britton's current research is centered on digital media and learning with a focus on integrating theory and practice. Britton is passionate about the future of libraries and has authored a number of articles and frequently presents on the subject for national conferences and webinars, including the Clinton Global Initiative, Beyond Access, and the Public Library Association. So please join me in welcoming Lauren Britton to the stage.
Hear me? Yeah. All right, so thank you all for having me. I'm very excited to be here. So my claim to fame as a public librarian is helping to bring the maker movement into the public library space. And I've given a number of presentations on this topic. I have talked about how to build maker spaces, programs that libraries can do, really the nuts and bolts of making in libraries. And throughout all of these presentations, and even my earlier publications, I was missing a really big, important point. I knew I was missing it. I ignored it intentionally because I didn't have the answer. And without fail, every conference, someone would ask. And the question was, this is awesome. We want to do this. But why would we do this? Why does a makerspace, why does a 3D printer belong in a library? I'm sure many of you have had that same question, right? And I would come up with some answer that was very unsatisfying to both me and the person asking it. And eventually, after running into this wall enough times, I decided to really take a step back and dig a little deeper into why this was important. Because I had a gut feeling that it was, right? I knew that it made sense. I knew that it fit in the library space. But I couldn't go up to a director of a library who's asking this question and say, just trust me. I can't tell you why, but it matters. Particularly as I was 1 month out of library school at the time, right? What the hell do I know? A little bit, it turns out. But it was a challenge. And so the challenge was that I had trouble making the connection on a theoretical basis between making and the maker movement in libraries for 2 reasons, right? The first reason was that I learned I wasn't talking about the maker movement or maker spaces. I was really talking about something called participatory culture, okay? And that's the force behind the maker movement. And then the second challenge that I discovered I was having is the mission of libraries, okay? the mission, the statement we put out to the world saying this is who we are and what we do. The missions that I was coming across, the mission at the library that I worked at, were really limiting my vision and limiting the vision of how this happens, how this works. And this last part, the mission problem, hit me in the strangest of times. I was working at a library, and I was reading a couple of blog posts, and I came across something written by Hugh Rundle. And dear Hugh, he wrote a blog post all about how 3D printing and the maker movement was mission creep, right? He compared putting a 3D printer in your library to adding a laundry facility or a car loan program. And it's 9 o'clock at night, I'm sitting on the couch next to my husband reading, the steam is coming out of my ears, I'm yelling at the computer, my husband's getting scared. And then I just sort of stopped. And it hit me, right? Why does a 3D printer make sense and a laundry facility doesn't? I bet y'all want to know, right? That's what we're going to talk about today. It's an important time to have this conversation for a couple reasons. And so what we're going to talk about is mission past, mission present, participatory culture, and then just a little thing called democracy. Yes. So libraries loom large in the public imagination, right? 90% of Americans who were surveyed for this Pew study said that if their public library closed, it would be devastating to their community. That same group of people said they had no idea the role the library would play in the future. They were very uncertain about what the purpose of a library would be in the future. Everybody loves libraries, but we don't know where we're going, right? And that problem is not because we don't know the future. It's because we're uncertain about the present. So a mission statement is a statement of purpose. It defines who we are and what we do. It explains why we exist, and it guides our actions. It's a statement to the world and to ourselves. So I want you all to take a minute to think. Okay, think of one word. You can only say one word. That pops in your head when you think of the library mission statement, or a word that's in your mission statement right now at your library that is key, that's really important. Who wants to volunteer a word? Yeah.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking? Okay, it's 2 words.
Community.
Okay.
Creativity.
Okay. Okay.
Access. Survey.
Okay, we're going to stop.
Market.
I got the word I wanted. I wanted a special word. Access, right? Community, all these things are really important, and they're all in our mission statements, right? But what are they focused on? 90% of public library missions focus on access. Access is really important. I do not want to see one tweet out there that says Lauren Britton thinks access in libraries is not good. I do. I think it's important. But it is not enough. And I think all of us sitting here know that, right? Access is not enough. But we've taken it up as our calling. It's the mission we send out to the world saying, this is what we do. We provide free and equal access. Again, important. But that really limits what we're able to do, and I believe it's played a very large role in where we are today. So let's look at a mission. And these are from actual, I just Googled library mission and I found these. They're not bad libraries, some of them are very innovative, but they serve as an example. So here's the first one. The mission of the blank library is to serve as a community center by providing free and equal access to information, knowledge, and ideas that foster individual and community development. That seems pretty awesome, right? Community center. How are they going to serve as a community center? By providing this access, which then fosters individual and community development. Does giving someone access necessarily foster development? Maybe. The mission of the blank library is to provide free and open access to ideas and information. So this is access focused, right? It's almost a build it and they will come, shelve it and they will read it, which we know doesn't happen. And the last one, the library enlightens and empowers its citizens to meet their lifetime learning needs through open and equitable access to information technology, and that slash is not mine, that was in there, cultural / educational programs. So this is saying we give you access. We are vital, we are important, we are essential because we give you access. And that access is going to change your world, right? That's all well and good, but is that really what we do? Do we sit at a desk and provide access? No, I don't think we do. But this is what we put out to the world. This is what we say we do. And that's why our community members are a little unsure of what we're going to be doing in the future. We've lost the Google battle, right? Information is freely available. It might not be the best information, but they have access. So when we come from this access-centered perspective, we are material-focused. We are focusing on the things. And this perspective has been the dominant perspective for the last century, right? These mission statements didn't just evolve out of nowhere. And I think it's wrong. I do. And these types of missions limit what we do and where we can go in the future. And this photo, I Googled the word library. Images. This is, I think, the first one that popped up. So, who wants to guess where this library is? What? That's a very good guess. This library is in West Africa. Close to Hartford. And it looks really similar to that first picture, which is from an American library. The only difference really is there are no football streamers here. So this is a library in Burma, right? And all of these images look almost identical. You could swap them out and it wouldn't matter, right? Are these communities exactly the same? Do the people in these communities have the same types of information needs? Probably not. But why do they all look the same? Because we're focusing on materials, about providing access to information, knowledge, and ideas, which is important, but it stops us from going further. And I think the biggest challenge with this access-centered focus is it has led us to confuse our tools, the tools of our trade, with our reason for being as librarians. When we focus on access, we focus on materials. And yet when we focus on librarians, we focus on something very different. The mission of librarians is to improve society through facilitating knowledge creation in their communities. This is from Dave Lankes's Atlas for New Librarianship, one of my favorite books. And what I think is awesome about this mission is that we're not just providing access, right? We are changing the world. We are facilitating knowledge creation in our communities. We are giving our community members the opportunity to change their worlds, right? We are giving them the opportunity to participate in the creation of their culture. Now, the tools that have come along in the last 10 years are really astounding, right? Digital media and the internet have done incredible things for us. And all of these things play a supporting role. They are the tools that we use, right? Librarians and your community members are the change agents. So I want to look at some other missions. And I want you to think about what's different. Do we have any Westport librarians here? The Westport Public Library is committed to empowering the individual and strengthening the community through dynamic interaction and the lively exchange of ideas. Here's another one. The mission of the New York Public Library is to inspire lifelong learning, advance knowledge, and strengthen our communities. And my personal favorite, our mission is to be the community's catalyst for lifelong learning. That word catalyst is pretty exciting. So what is a catalyst? Catalysts are indispensable. From the nudge that sends the nervous ballerina onto the stage to the enzyme that sparks cellular life, catalysts precipitate change that would otherwise not occur owing to an obstacle. Since obstacles exist, change or innovation would be impossible without catalysts. Catalysts spark passion. They spark curiosity and the freedom to pursue and in fact realize challenging ideas in our culture, industry, and society. How powerful is that? Catalysts precipitate change that would otherwise be impossible. Librarians are catalysts. We don't just provide access, we are catalysts in our communities, right? So what happens when we turn this thing around? And we move from access, a mission of providing access, to being a catalyst in our community. Let's go back to the beginning to my buddy Hugh Rendell, who honestly doesn't know who I am, nor would he care, where he's comparing 3D printers to a laundry facility. If we're coming from a mission of providing access, it probably doesn't make sense to build a makerspace. It probably doesn't make sense to put a 3D printer in your library. We don't just give access to something because it's expensive, right? Or for other reasons that one might put that stuff in there. And I think that's where a lot of libraries run into trouble when they buy a 3D printer, right? They put it in their library, no one really knows how to use it, starts collecting dust. 3D printing and making clearly are a failure. I wouldn't think so. So as I said, we're living through something really incredible. And when you think about our mission as facilitating knowledge creation, putting this stuff in your library is a no-brainer. It makes perfect sense. And as I said, the digital media, tools, and the internet have fundamentally changed society today, right? And they've helped to create something on such a grand scale that we have never seen before, and that is participatory culture. It is the force behind the maker movement, and the reason that we are starting to do this stuff. So what is participatory culture? It's a culture with relatively low barriers to artistic expression and civic engagement, strong support for creating and sharing, informal membership, and experienced participants pass along knowledge to novices. And this fits in perfectly with what we do every day. I bet all of you are already doing this stuff, and if you're not, you're doing library wrong, okay? We do this every day, in story time, in working with someone at the reference desk, we do this. So it's easy to talk about these sort of very, well, maybe not easy, big picture things. But it's helpful to have a practical example. And I normally talk about makerspaces in general, but I rarely have talked about in the past specific things that people do in these spaces, right? And I think one thing that's important to talk about as a concept in participatory culture is remix culture, or otherwise known as read-write culture. So again, another definition. What is this? Read-write culture encourages derivative works. No copyright challenges, that's a discussion for another day. Where you're combining or editing existing material and creating something new, to say something new, okay? And there's a reciprocal relationship in read-write culture, remix culture, between the creator and the consumer. It's about democratizing production and giving our community members an opportunity to have a voice and to be heard in a way that has never happened before. And that word democratizing production is really important, right? Democracy is important to our society, and it's incredibly important to us as librarians. So President Franklin D. Roosevelt, right, he considered democracy to be the opportunity for everyone to participate in all aspects of society. And for their libraries, that's what they used to say, I say it's librarians, each and every one of you, ensure the freedom to read, to view, to speak, and to participate in our culture. We are the cornerstones of democracy, right? But I think we can all agree that simply providing access does not, in fact, give everyone the opportunity to participate, particularly in the 21st century. So how are people participating today, in this present moment, in 2014? I'm going to quickly bounce out of this presentation and give you an example of a remix, right? Put together by students, kids, your people. And they took existing content, changed it up to say something really important.
Live.
We begin with breaking news.
This is ABC 7 Breaking News.
We begin tonight with breaking news. Some breaking news.
Beginning with breaking news. Breaking news.
Right now, the suspect description is vague. He is described as a black male.
The suspect is described as being a black male.
The suspect is a black male.
Black man.
Black male.
Black male suspect.
Describe him as a black male.
As a black male.
Described as a black male.
A black man.
Described as young black
He's
male.
an African-American male. Or African-American male.
African American man.
Described as a black male.
Black
They
male.
are on the lookout for a black male.
Black male. Black male.
Black male.
He's described as a black male.
Blackmailed.
And all police know right now is they're looking for a black male.
The only description they have of the suspect is black
Yeah,
male.
suspect description is a vague one. Black male.
A very vague description, only that they're black males and were wearing black
He
hoodies.
was wearing a black hooded sweatshirt.
A black hoodie
Black male with a black hoodie.
over a black hoodie.
Check this one out. He's dressed in a black hoodie, in black pants and a black hoodie,
Black pullover hoodie.
And a hooded sweatshirt.
Black hoodie. Wearing black from head to toe. A black
He
hoodie.
was wearing a black hoodie at a convenience store, wearing his black hoodie, buying candy.
but the only description we have is an armed black man wearing a black hoodie.
They were wearing hoodies, so the description isn't too detailed.
That's so talked about black hoodie, now with an ominous bullet hole near the chest. Police do not have a more detailed description of that suspect.
You're gonna need your hoodie though today. You'll need to warm up because it's gonna stay a little bit on the chilly side.
And so, according to police, there never was a black male armed robbery suspect. And in fact, tonight they just told me they are not looking for any additional suspects at this time.
If you see a black man and he has a hoodie on, he's not necessarily a criminal.
That's pretty powerful, right? And that's something that a group of teenagers, not ready for that, put together using the tools that most of us have in our library right now. That's participating in your democracy with the tools available today. Jump the gun. So when we focus solely on our outward mission, what we say to the world that we're creating access, this stuff might not make sense. But if we think of ourselves as catalysts in our community, right, as facilitating knowledge creation, it makes perfect sense. And so I have a favorite quote here. I'm sure most of you know it. It's a big deal in library land from Keith Richards. Right? When you're growing up, there are two institutional places that affect you most powerfully. The church, which belongs to God, and the public library, which belongs to you. Our libraries belong to our community members. And it's our responsibility, it's our mission to give our community members the ability to participate in society. So what happens if we don't do this? What happens if we stick in comfort zone, in the tradition from years past, right? Those who have the education skills, financial resources, and time required to navigate the sea of cultural choice have new cultural opportunities. And those citizens who have fewer resources, less time, less money, less knowledge about how to do this stuff, they increasingly rely on the cultural fare offered to them. So you have people who have the ability to create, and then you have the people who only have the ability to consume. And so these folks, right, that find it increasingly difficult to take advantage of the pro-am what we're talking about. That's what participatory culture is. That's what digital media is all about. And there's talk now not just a digital divide, but a cultural divide, creating a new cultural underclass. Those that participate in the creation of their culture and engage with our democracy, and then those that consume culture and have very little voice in our democracy. So, this is my girl Gypsy. I think it's a stage name. I don't know. I don't know if any of you recognize that young lady over there. That's me. This was at my bachelorette party 5 years ago, almost to the day. Some people go to bars. I have a sleepover with a gypsy. Right? She's a fortune teller. She had this very nice, glowy crystal ball. And, you know, it was kind of a joke having a fortune teller there, but part of me thought maybe she's real. Right? Maybe she can tell me the future, tell me that I'm going to have this lovely, wonderful marriage and the children that I want, and everything will be roses and rainbows. And she did, of course, right? It's my bachelor party. She knew what to say. Right? But at the end of the day, is it because she said the future is going to be so rosy and happy, or is it because my husband and I communicate every day, right? I don't ignore him for weeks on end. That we talk, right? Our marriage is successful because we are in the present moment working on it every day, making changes today, not in some mysterious future, right? And so when we have task forces and summits and working groups to talk about the future of libraries, I think they're important, right? Strategic planning and long-term plans are important, right? But that stuff isn't going to happen unless we make changes today, in the present moment. And I can't tell you how many times I speak at conferences about making maker spaces, all this stuff we're talking about today, and people are like, yeah, let's do it. And then they come up to me after and they say, this is awesome, but I can't do it. I can't do it in my library. I don't have the money. I don't have the training. My director isn't going to allow it. Sometimes they see something very different right there. The board won't understand. I mean, any reason that you can think of. I'm sure many of you think of these reasons every day, right? But if we let those reasons stop us, I don't think we're going to be in a good place. There are always reasons not to do something. But if we continue to push our mission as facilitating knowledge creation, to take these risks, we have a very bright future indeed. I believe that libraries, and more importantly librarians, have a bright future. I think we have an important future. We need to help our community members to expect more from us. Okay? We need to help them move beyond the tools that we provide to the opportunities that we create. And if we do this, if we give our community members the ability to create and not just consume, to foster a read-write culture, as well as create access to the tools and training that we do so well, we will enable every member of our community to be fully engaged citizens with 21st century skills. Libraries will truly be the cornerstone of democracy. We will help give every community member a voice and to be heard. And I challenge each of you to be thought leaders, right? To change the present and not just the future. And as you enter sessions today to talk about practice, I challenge you to connect the dots, right? Whether the topic is makerspaces or story time, I want you to ask yourself, how am I facilitating knowledge creation here? How am I giving my community members the opportunity to truly participate? And finally, I want to challenge you all, yes, small task here, to change the world by giving your community members the ability to change theirs. questions?
Yeah, one or two questions.
I'm just that good. Nobody has a question. Okay. Yeah.
What's the pro-am revolution?
Pro-amateur. Right? So you're seeing this blend of before a lot of these tools and these skills and this knowledge was limited to a very small group of people, right? And with the tools and technology that have come along, they're enabling anyone to participate. Anyone with an iPhone can start to do some of these things, right? But there's a real risk that that pro is going to shift just to an elite group of people that have a certain type of access. See, access is still important, right?